Yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay, in deference to the weather, we're gonna go ahead and call to order. When they come back in a minute. Good afternoon. Welcome to Maryland Elementary School Go Team meeting. We will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I'd like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I'm pleased to call this meeting of the Maryland Elementary School Go Team to order at 2:49 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. Secretary, will you now take the roll?
All right. Let's see. Principal Brinksled,
Here.
Christy Perez,
Here.
Addison Draper, here. Perry Rom,
Here.
Kayla Deese,
Here.
Becky Hecox,
Here.
Missy Snyder. Lindley Terrace.
Here.
Scott Thorpe here. Kelsey Voyage.
Here.
I believe we have.
Excellent. Now that we've established a quorum, we can proceed to our action items. The first action item is the approval of the agenda. I just want to point out, if you looked at the agenda that was emailed out, you'll see there's a section 4C, optional school uniform. That was actually added by the district, so we're going to need to discuss that today. Otherwise, do you have any changes or additions to the agenda? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That sounded like everybody agreed. So we'll proceed with this agenda. The next action item would be the approval of the previous minutes. I sent them out, but unfortunately did not print a copy. Did everybody have a chance to look at them? Okay. Did
Yes.
anybody have any additions you have not already brought up? Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
It sounded like that was unanimous, so we don't have any other action items on the agenda. Slide.
So unfortunately, and we'll talk about this when we get to milestones. Milestones math scores are still embargoed through Friday. Which is very disappointing because I would love to share that aggregate data with you, but I cannot. So right now we will start.
Wait, why is it on the screen if you
Yeah.
can't share with us?
Because that's ELA.
Good job. That's clear.
Whoever's listening. So this is ELA data. And this is, I'm sorry, this is ELA and math data, specifically around math. All right, so what you're seeing here is the percentage of students who performed in either distinguished, which is dark green, proficient, developing, or beginning at Mary Lynn on the fall math assessment. This includes grade levels 1st through 5th, and it includes math exams, reading or literacy exams, and science in 5th grade only. So as you can see, something we are all aware of, Mary Lynn is very high performing. We have students who are ready to hit the ground running and just generally high achievement. Something that we are going to drill down into will be our grade level achievements. So here you can kind of see, and we always consider fall to be a baseline. You know, I talked to our staff about this and our students as well. You know, kids are coming off of summer break. This is kind of where we start. I'm looking forward to winter because at winter we'll be able to see a semester's worth of growth and see kind of how kids are doing in the first semester. But this is our baseline. Very typical to see a change in the percentage of kids specifically who get distinguished from the spring to the fall. We've got some learning loss over the summer. Just kids are out of the swing of things. But this is, you know, showing that our second graders are slightly outperforming themselves in reading compared to math. 3rd grade students are kind of right neck and neck with reading and math. Our 4th grade students were really outperforming themselves in reading compared to math, specifically when we look at distinguished, right? Distinguished and proficient, both of these green bars would be considered, you know, proficient, right? So that's our goal. And then our 5th graders just blowing it out of the water in both reading and math as far as achievement goes. Once again, this is achievement, not growth. One of the best things about math is that we can monitor growth. And I'm going to show you that now. So this is your growth quintile view. So this includes all grades. And we're going to talk about how our children grew in reading. And this is fun because what we can do is we can take a look at each grade level and see how our kids are growing at Mary Lynn in comparison to other schools. So here you'll see that at Mary Lynn, we had 62 first graders take this assessment. 53% of them had high growth, which is growth 80th percentile or above. And what that means is if you have a growth percentile of 80 or above, that means that you performed or above 80% of your peers. So the amount of growth that our first graders saw from last fall to this fall was the same growth or more growth than 80% of their peers. So that tells us that our kids are growing at a faster rate than 80% of their peers. Well, I guess what percentage? 53% of our students are growing at a higher rate than 80% of their peers. Yes.
I want to make sure I understand. So you're comparing it from the first graders from last fall to the first graders this fall, right?
So
And
this
seeing
is
the growth with
our
them.
first graders compared to themselves.
Okay,
So
Okay.
from K to.
So from,
Compared to
Yeah.
their own scores from kindergarten to fall.
got you.
So these
Okay,
are your.
yeah, my kindergarten.
Really
was
an
a lot.
indicator of
Yeah.
what they learned in kindergarten.
Got you.
Right.
Okay.
Our school.
That's
At our
good.
school.
That's great.
Down is neck.
And now apparently
You jump there,
Yeah.
like, it's so clear.
Yeah.
You sound like.
So clear, I'm amazing.
Yeah. All right, and we could really dig in, we could go through every
Yeah.
grade level and talk about reading and math growth. I just want to kind of show you what we do at our grade level meetings and what we do as a staff to really dig in to the data. We also look at what our growth target percentage is. This is another measure of growth. Hari, you were asking about the growth targets, right? So EOG has growth targets and MAP has growth targets. They're similar, but not equal. Basically MAP, based on normed, thousands and thousands of pieces of data from students across the country, they have normed growth rates. So students are expected to grow a certain amount based on this incredible wealth of norm data they have. And it usually ends up being, between like 2 and 10 points each time based on where they started and where they're going. And this graph tells us what percentage of our kids either did not meet, met, or exceeded whatever that target was that MAP. So if you look here at fall, and you can see here, remember you were asking if this is fall to fall, we can sort it all different ways, right? In fall, you usually sort fall to fall. In winter, we'll look at fall to winter. In spring, we will probably look at fall to spring, right? So we're all just looking at different time periods of learning, right? To judge how much kids have grown. But you can kind of dig in, and this is math. We could look at just fifth grade. All right, so you can see 68% of our students met or exceeded their fall to fall growth, right? So this is a number that we want to increase, right? When we're talking about fall to winter, we want to see more than 68% of our kids meet their growth. And this is just kind of the data that we look at. Let's do third grade now. 57 and 12. So 69% of our students met or exceeded their growth goal. And when teachers look at this, they're able to dig down into the domains of achievement and the specific pieces of content that child either exceeded, met, or is below growth on, and can really pinpoint instruction to meet the kids where they are. I did want to look at the so this is it. This one is slightly confusing because it looks like that growth graph with the 5 colors, but Georgia has a partnership with NWEA, the company that makes MAP, whereas we get data from MAP that has been kind of crosswalked to Georgia milestones, which is 4 achievement categories. But if you were just to do MAP and just ignore Georgia overall, MAP actually has 5 achievement categories. So that's the difference here. So this is achievement data, and this is based on MAP's quintiles instead of that first graph we saw, which was the 4 beginning, proficient, beginning, developing, proficient, distinguished that we have in milestones. So I really like this graph because with the quintiles, we can really see what percentage our students are achieving at or above the 80th percentile, and that's the blue. So this is just telling us that when we get our kids here in the fall at Mary Lynn, our goal isn't necessarily to get the majority of our kids to achieve, because the majority of our kids are already achieving, right? Our goal is more focused on growth and how we can take kids who might already be achieving and grow them to the next level. Subgroup comparisons is what I wanted to go to next, and then we will move to milestones. So these are the subgroup comparisons on MAP, we're also gonna look at subgroup comparisons on E and G. But you can see here, all of these bars are fall to fall. Just looking at the performance of subgroups in math and reading, and also important to note that this only can include second, third, fourth, and fifth graders. But highlights here would be, you know, in our math our math category, we experienced some positive growth from fall to fall with the subgroups Black or African American and 2 or more races, as well as our white subgroup. Experienced a little bit of a decrease in the students in the Asian and Hispanic Latino subgroup. I think it's always interesting and important to kind of take a look at the number of kids this is capturing, right? So this is 15 kids in the fall of last year, and this year it's 13. So we actually lost 2 kids, right? So does that have a hand in the data looks? Possibly, you know, they could be different children. This is not necessarily the same children, right? This is like, these were 15 kids who fell into the Asian subcategory, and this is 13 kids, but they might not be the same kids. But we look at exactly this, you know, we look at the same kids, but aggregate data doesn't. We can also look at these subgroup. Oh, I wanted to do some bright spots in math. Bright spots in math were the increase of students who were in the Hispanic Latino subgroup, who were performing proficient and above in reading. Other than that, we had some drops in reading fall to fall. So that is definitely an area of focus for us. It's interesting though, this is fall to fall data. What you'll see when you look at the EOG data is most of our subgroups had really great positive growth on their performance year over, which is great. And I would love to show you math, but I can't, but we'll talk about that in a second. We don't have a subgroup for EL status, so we don't have 15 children or more who are qualified as EL. So all we have is the not English language learners. We don't have the other bar. Gifted is always something we look at Maryland, so we have a very large gifted population. You can see here, really excited that the students who are in our not gifted
I'm sorry,
population.
can we pause to like just talk to the order of the business?
Yeah.
I understand that you're presenting a lot.
Yeah.
And it's really good. Everything is good. But like, I feel like we need a session for questions here. Because we're gonna run long and then I'm gonna close it. Or I'm gonna propose to close it.
What-
And not because I want to, but like, I feel like we need a session for questions.
Questions from the group or questions from the public?
No, questions from the board or from this group, yes.
Okay.
Does someone have any questions about it? Clarify.
I mean, I had a couple, I'm sorry. So this is public data, right? Because I think I was playing around with this tool last year.
There is
It
a public
becomes-
view that's very similar. Yes, you
Yeah.
obviously don't have the student drill down function, but
You just
it's
get
called like
that.
APS vids, I think. For us, it's called APS graphs, but for the public, is it still?
APS insights.
Insights.
Yeah,
there you
yeah.
go. Yes.
Because one of the questions there are 2 questions there. One is, if you go back to the previous plot on the map, we don't have to, but it seemed like the proficiency levels of reading and math are almost very close to each other across all groups. It seemed like, as a statistician, that seems very odd that like even the scales themselves are similar. Is it because of how the data is generated, or like it's the same group has 85 in reading and 85 in math? Is that always true? And if so, like,
I would say we typically, I mean, teachers, I'm gonna chime in, but I would say that typically our goal, right, would be for students to perform similarly, because if you wouldn't want to have a child who's performing distinguished in reading and developing in math, because that would indicate potentially even like a something's going on there. I would say if a child can be performing at the 80th percentile in reading, they should be able to perform at the 80th percentile in math. Largely because a lot of the assessment in math, you have to be a good reader.
The language
It's the language.
and the comprehension.
And when you talk about science as well, if you have a
100%
barrier to
confidence.
reading, even if
Mm-hmm.
you understand science, you're not gonna perform well. So I think that
but this is expected.
naturally it's expected
Mhm.
because of the nature of how important reading is
Okay.
to these.
And if I
No,
could.
there are-
Oh, sorry.
Oh,
Well, what I was gonna say, sometimes it's not as precise as like 85, but it will be like if, because even when your children, if you look like when they come back again, if you look, you'll see that as well, that you'll see that their math and reading is very neck and neck. And that is, so it's not, that's not abnormal. It is very
normal
we-
to be.
yeah.
It's not that the ordering is same across the groups, but the actual numbers are also very close.
Sure,
Okay.
yes, and I think that they are scaled on the same scale,
Okay.
yes, for math and milestones, if not the same, very similar.
And if nobody else has any question, I have another data question, but
Well, I was gonna say also with GMAS too, sometimes we'll see a kid make, distinguish a 4 on reading and then maybe a 3 on math or, but it's usually, we don't have someone that makes a 4 on reading usually and then a 1 on math. It's not that big of a disparity usually.
You would know that.
Yeah,
Ahead of time.
you would-
In order to intervene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something has happened there. Like
Right.
there's a,
Right.
Right, they're making the, yeah, there's. some-
Yes.
Yeah,
and so when that happens, people intervene and figure out.
Mhm.
I think my other question was that as you were showing the very beginning, you were showing the raw numbers,
achievement data.
which for Maryland was pretty high
Mhm.
across the board. And I can imagine that when your base number is pretty high,
Mhm.
it's hard to expect high growth.
That's exactly right.
So the question is there a tool, a way in there to filter out high achievement students and look at the growth post that? I would assume that it would improve the growth numbers or maybe hurt growth numbers.
Mhm.
But I would assume it would improve growth numbers because usually high achievings are
Mhm.
always like either same and not growing or coming down because they're 99 percentile and they became
Can I-
98 percentile.
Can I interject with that?
Sure.
So and the teacher view, to your point, that's very accurate. With our view, like right now, they just took their assessment in the fall, so we won't be able to really see their quadrants as we would in a way that's beneficial to see where they're growing and who's at mastery, because really, when you think about it, it's broken up into 4s. It's statistics, so it's the exact same thing. So we want everybody's bubble to be in that top right corner, which is high achievement, high growth. So when it's like in any of the other bubbles where you might have high achievement but low growth or low growth, low achievement, that's how we can look at each specific student and their data to see where they're at. And to your point, that's how we're able to progress them forward.
Yeah, the quarter view
Academic
makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
and like, I will also say, just to like, because of where we are, I'm gonna treat this as our discussion session. So everybody gets 2 minutes if they want. I'm not trying to shut anyone down, but like, just, we have 10 minutes. In addition to the other 10 minutes of this is our discussion session. So if we wanna talk about this, like, we can do that, but we're gonna count it. So we can
Limits right now.
we can limit the amount of time, thank you. We can limit the amount of time of discussion, and I know I started it. So,
Yeah.
like, that is not a criticism, but like. We are counting this discussion time as discussion time
Great.
of the issues we're dealing with.
Yeah, great. I mean, I think just to speak to one more part about like the difficulties potentially with growing children who are already high achievers. There is a very marked difference between student growth on math and student growth on milestones.
Mhm.
Math is a normed reference assessment that's computer adaptable, so it adapts the child's level. So a fifth grader who did incredibly well in math in 4th grade could start their
Mhm.
math assessment the first time they take it in 5th grade, and they're getting 8th grade questions, right? Because they've shown growth, right? And with those kids on math specifically, it's harder to show growth because we're not always teaching 8th grade content, right? Our teachers know where their kids are performing. And in small group, they are accelerating kids, but it's a little bit different on milestones because milestones is grade level only. It's a criterion referenced assessment, right? And the SGPs are based on the growth of their peers. So if you think about all the 4th graders in Georgia that got a perfect score on the milestones in 4th grade, and then the next year they took it in 5th grade. The kids who got a perfect score again are gonna have the 99% growth because they did it. Like they were the highest you could get in the 4th grade, then they're the highest you can get in the 5th grade. If you're the highest you can get in the fourth grade, and then you're 1 point below in fifth grade, you're not gonna be at the 99th percentile, you might be at like the 98th or 97th. So the SGPs are based on the peer group, which is, hard to understand. And I've been talking about it for like 10 years, so that's why I really understand it. But if you have any questions, let me know. But it just takes a while to like familiarize yourself with how those SGPs work. So this is the last thing we'll look at is our on math. Before we mention milestones, this is our gifted subgroup. Really love to see our students who are not in the gifted program growing. Definitely want to see the students who are in the gifted program also growing. Once again, math is a more difficult indicator to see that growth on. So we'll see what that looks like on milestones, which is that criterion referenced assessment. Once again, unfortunately, this graph in particular, this dashboard in particular only has ELA and science results because math is still embargoed. So make sure that that's, I check like every day. Yeah, okay, it's still there. So Friday it is, so they'll stop embargoing that, but this is our milestones achievement
Amazing. Wow.
in 2024. This includes third, fourth, and fifth graders. So this is the percent of children who got distinguished. 53%, 33% of our students got proficient.
Why is my
12%.
child red side?
So red.
That was a joke.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't know how you know that. I'm like, say that. No.
The
So this is third, fourth, and fifth grade. If we dug some down, we can see what third grade looks like. That's third grade right here. So the reason that Jackson is above us is because this graph is not sorted based on distinguished, it's sorted based on proficient and above. So they had one more, I think, percentage of their kiddos be proficient and above. And then we have fourth grade ELA, which looks similar to our overall average. And that's because in fifth grade,
Woo!
it's
Sorry.
our fifth grade ELA scores last year just truly have never seen anything like that. We didn't have any children score in the beginning, and we did have students with IEPs in special education in fifth grade last year who passed. Passing is developing. Our goal is proficient, but we are very proud of that. So that's the ELA.
Yes. Also, like, I feel like with a little bit, but also, yes,
Yeah.
like, it may just be like, that's awesome. Like, we are moving forward, like, for everybody.
Science is right here. This fifth grade only takes science, so this is our science achievement. Phenomenal and very aligned to reading, because science, when it comes down to it, is probably first and foremost a reading assessment, and then second about your knowledge of, the science standards. So excellent work there. Wanted to come over to the all right, so this is the scores versus challenge index. So this is unfortunately not for this year yet. The 24 data is suppressed, but, and I actually would like to, after this graphs, stop talking about milestones. I would really like to take some time next week, meeting talking about milestones, because we'll have math. And I have some really great slides to share about EOG, specifically SGPs. But the data profile I have has both ELA and math, and I can't share it with you right now. So I'm gonna, after I do this, I would like to stop talking about data, table EOG, talk about it in next meeting, because lots of great stuff to share on SGPs specifically. But this is comparing our performance to our challenge index, which is, I have no idea how they make the challenge index. I will hopefully learn one day, but it is a metric based on the percentage of students we have on free or reduced lunch, the percentage of students we have experiencing homelessness, the percentage of students we have who are transient versus our achievement, right? So the goal here is to be above the line. regardless of where your school is on the challenge index. You can see we have a very low challenge index, so we are well above performing where we would be expected to perform based on our challenge. So this is something we're always really proud of, and hope to continue and see every year. Unfortunately, we don't have it for this year, but this is what math looked like through 2023, still above the line. And then we have science also above the line. Yeah, to show that we are doing better than we're expected to be doing, based on the demographic of children. So, any questions about the milestones, specifically ELA? Because that's.
Hearing none.
Like I said, we're gonna get into this EOG SUPs next time, so I can have a complete profile and share a map with you guys. So if we don't have any, I think next up, and Chrissy stepped out, but let me come back to our.
Because she's not here, just. We're supposed to go over next some of the limbs and rows around the data. We can probably just move We're back
to.
in.
All right, you are back on. I have some great stuff to talk about. next. Oh, I see someone.
She's. It's crazy.
I don't know if the clicker is working now, I'm just gonna try it. Oh, okay. Did you already talk about the closing rows and whether or not we wanna? pull that
I opened it up. Yeah, I opened it up.
So last time, we didn't actually type anything in and fill this in. And it's something that we can do at the next business meeting where we are really digesting our data from fall to winter. But I think it's just really meant to help us highlight what we're learning from the data and how we can really like be proud of where we're at already, because there's a lot to be proud of. And then also search for opportunities to create our strategic plans around. Okay, and so that's what the rows would be. I don't know if anybody has any comments. We'll keep them down to the 2-minute mark. If you do want to talk about any specific things you want to highlight or things that you're particularly proud of, because like I said, there's a lot to be happy about with the data. Mhm.
I will say, if anybody doesn't really think that this group is doing as awesome like as they possibly can. Like object now. We are all here for our kids, for our school. We're really happy with like the transition that we're trying to push forward. And let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean.
That's my
it's-
2 minutes.
I want to just point out that I feel like our current strategic priorities where we're really focused on the growth of each individual child and, you know, like the way that you can amazingly like drill down into what each person needs, like based on their math, like, okay,
Yeah.
not only math, but also this part of math, you know, and if we improve their reading, then we'll also improve their math here is, I think, just, it's like an amazing opportunity for each child.
Yeah, I love that.
I will say that like one glow that I'm proud of is I feel like we really focused on getting some of those subgroups up and really, I'm just so proud.
And that's very evident in the data that I look forward to sharing with you about our SGPs in 4th and 5th grade, our subgroup student growth percentiles. Like I said, I wish that, I mean, we're like 2 days away. So I'm like, I'm not trying to, I can't get by,
No,
you know,
no.
so I gotta wait, but I'm looking forward to, because there's some really good data around our end of year assessments around subgroup performance and areas of growth still that we have. You know, I'm not saying everything's perfect, but you can, there was an obvious attention to that detail in the past year.
Okay, perfect. I personally thought everything was perfect.
Appreciate that. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. It looks like we're so nicely set up here, doesn't it?
It was working.
It was.
Oh, there it is.
Okay, so did I turn it off accidentally? I think we already, yeah, off and on, so electronics, that's me. I think we've already, talked
Yeah.
about what we noticed, what we're wondering, and if we have any questions. So we're right here in the timeline. We're utilizing current data, reviewing it, possibly updating the strategic plan and priorities. Then before winter break, we'll take action and vote on the rank of the strategic plan priorities for next school year. In preparation for the budget discussion that happened in the winter, like February timeframe. Questions? So this was the agenda item that was added by the district. And I'm just gonna read straight from the script that they sent to me. We have an important decision to make regarding the continuation or implementation of an optional school uniform. Our goal today is to first decide whether we wish to move forward with this initiative. If we vote in favor of maintaining or exploring the establishment of an optional school uniform, we will then discuss the formation of an advisory committee to help implement and manage the process. If we vote against maintaining or exploring the establishment of an optional school uniform, the school will not have a school uniform in 2025 and 2026. We will proceed to the next agenda item. There are a few slides here. Just gonna put this up. Hold on 1 second while I organize my papers. We don't currently have a school uniform, okay? I'm sure everybody's also aware.
Wait, what?
What? I didn't send my, yeah.
It's great. Well, there is a dress code policy. And there are certain things that you can and cannot do with the dress code policy.
I'm sorry, is this what is now?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And so it says here in my discussion, it says, before we move forward, Denise, can you provide the team with the background information on this policy change? Do you have that information? I don't know if,
Yeah, those are basically the slides that are the background, so if you go back,
that oh,
like these slides.
are the background
Yeah,
for it, okay.
yeah.
You want me to read the slides?
I mean, I'm happy to chat about it. I mean, I think that, overall.
Hold on, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Point of-
sorry. Where are we on this? Are we
So-
asking for the information on the point of order, or are we asking for the, like, are we discussing what we're proposing?
So the
Sorry.
way this script and what they've requested us to do is to look at the background information and decide if we want to keep our current policy or change it. Currently, we have no uniforms, so we're deciding, do we want to continue to have no uniforms? And then we'll have no further action. If we change that policy, then we'll have to create a subcommittee and we will have to investigate the implementation of a school uniform.
Yeah,
Okay.
I saw that, but so my question is, are we speaking to how our current policy is? Or are we speaking to whether we want to change it?
I think that we're speaking to currently what APS's current policy
Okay.
is, as
So
opposed to.
That's fine, I'm,
Yeah. Okay. Do you want?
Yeah, I mean, currently the policy is, it's not very, I mean, as you can see, the requirements, right? I mean, basically, we don't want any body parts showing. Students need to make sure that they're wearing shoes that are appropriate. I mean, I think generally in elementary school, this is not a problem. I think that a lot of the conversation around dress code policy happens in the middle and high schools. Our kiddos generally are wearing appropriate shoes for PE, generally not wearing see-through clothing, and the restrictions around gang-related or sexually suggestive material. Every once in a while something will slip through, and the parent will be like, "Oh wait, they were wearing their Big Brother's shirt." You know what I mean? And those things they happen, and we have conversations with families, and we move forward. So the APS policy, you can see here is
Point of
generally
order.
pretty vague.
Have you had any issues with the current dress code policy?
No.
Okay, so before we take up a ton of time on this, do we want to have a motion to maintain the current policy?
Yes, that makes a motion.
Does anybody want to?
Second.
Can we vote on if we want to maintain the current policy? If you are in agreement, say aye.
Aye.
I think that was unanimous. So we're gonna close that.
Wait, sorry, hearing any no's?
No,
Do we hear any no's?
Mm-mm.
Is Ms. Snyder on? Or like
Yes.
check the comment?
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, my apologies, guys, but I'm on.
Do you vote no, Missy?
Or do you vote yes?
No, I vote to keep it like it is now.
Great.
Great.
Hearing no no's.
Hearing.
Then that motion to maintain the current policy of no uniforms is accepted. The next part of the agenda is about information items. So that's gonna be the principal's report and the cluster advisory team report. Gonna fast forward through some of these slides and go straight to, this was, this is a 5AI enrollment and leveling updates. Do you want to?
Yeah, have to. All right, so here we have our enrollment projections and our 15-day count, which was how many students were enrolled at the point of August 21st. So we were down 8 kids, which is not horrible. We have other schools in our cluster that were unfortunately down like 50. So we were pretty spot on. I actually was thrilled that it was only 8. I thought it was going to be like more like 15. When I came into the role June 1st, we actually had a weird projection for our 4th grade this year, in which we were projected to have 15 more 4th graders than we had in seats in 3rd grade, which I thought was kind of weird. When I brought that up to our folks in strategic planning, they said it was kind of like those discussions had been had, and that was my budget, and that was what our projection was. And I was like, well, I hope somebody with 15 4th graders moves in to Gaylord Park. So I'm glad that it was only 8, because I was expecting to be more. So during the leveling process, we basically lost our reserves. I had about $44,000 in reserves, which was honestly pretty close to the amount of money that we lost by having 8 kids under. So our budget adjustment ended up being $47,228 on the positive side. And that was partially because every school in APS got a $45,000 school security grant that we are still in discussion about how to best utilize those funds. We're in discussion in the cluster. That can definitely be, I believe we're going to talk about that potentially in a future Go Team meeting about how that money is going to be used. And we've also heard that that's going to be a year over grant that we receive. So we will potentially also get $45,000 in next year. So I've already got some ideas. And we'll talk about that when the time comes, but the extra that we still had on the positive side was only about $2,000. So that money is just going to instructional supplies, teacher stipends, that type of thing. So that's how we ended up with a positive of $47,228 in our budget. This was a slide I, full transparency, copied and pasted from last year's slideshow. So it seems like this was, I guess, the plan of how much reserve we would have. I'm not sure if it included, I don't think that it included that $45,000 school security grant. But I mean, as you can see here, 89,000, we are way off of that on our leveling reserve, considering the fact that of what we have, really only $2,000 is available to me. That school security grant can't be used for anything else, other than what it has been earmarked for. And I actually put the link in there because I was gonna pull it up. I think in the sense of time I won't, but when we can have true conversation about how we're gonna use that money, we'll be sure to take a look at like the specific requirements the Georgia DOE has around how to use that money. So that is a summary of our changes, not many, yeah.
So if it's listed under non-personnel changes, does that mean it can't be an SRO officer?
So it can be, yeah, I don't really know where to put that, but yeah, it can be, but it doesn't even pay for half.
Right.
You know, so as SRO is the cost of staff overall is going up every
Right.
year. So as school resource officers over
It's just
$100,000.
listed there. Just for
It is. And like, I wonder, could I like bank that $45,000 this
Yeah,
year?
using them.
I think.
Last year
That's what
when we
you're
talked
asking.
about this, I think we even maybe talked about whether it'd be a part-time that shared across schools or something like.
Yeah, and that's another thing we're talking about in the cluster, right? About whether, you know, there are two elementary schools that want to partner and fund an officer. Unfortunately, where we're at right now in the district with staffing, I think last time Chief Applin gave us an update, we still have like 30 vacancies for school resource officers. So even if I was to purchase that
We'd have to find her.
position, right, we'd have to like go out there on
Yeah.
on LinkedIn and find ourselves
A security guard.
somebody. So, you know, open to anything, you know, this can be used for fencing, cameras, radios, you know, bulletproof glass. I mean, the list is extensive. So lots of ideas. Kind of still waiting on guidance from budget as to when and how I can actually like take that money and give it to
Mhm.
the thing, right? So
No.
I'm
for
sure that will come
children.
up. Yeah, all for the children, always.
One,
Yes.
can I have
Yeah, go ahead.
one question?
Yeah.
Which is, you're saying you have only 2,000 something left over.
Yeah.
And maybe I missed this, but the board budget you just flashed, right? You said you copy pasted it. Are those like an estimate of what is really needed? Or is that?
You talking about this?
Yeah, or like, because you were showing us what you have, the question is what you need. Is this like an estimate or not really?
I believe, see, once again, new
No,
principal.
no, yeah,
Didn't
no.
do this. I believe that, and I don't know if you were part of the GO-TEAM meeting, which just was discussed in March. This was an expectation of based on the budget at that time in March, what we potentially would have left over at this point in the school year. And this, I think, was just an idea of how to like fund that money or how to
I
utilize
think that was Sharon's, like, because the halftime gifted teacher,
Mhm.
we slash.
Yeah, we don't have a 0.5 gifted teacher, didn't need that. We are providing professional learning experiences. Most of that's covered with foundation funding. And then hourly staff members, we can't afford hourly staff members at this point. So, yeah.
I think we've done more in 3 months than we've done in a long time, and that is not any indictment of the private
course not.
administration at all.
Yeah.
I just think everyone here is meeting to try to move forward.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that there is not more to do.
Right.
But just to be clear, and there is more to do,
Yeah, always room to
but I
grow.
just wanna like, my personal view. And I speak for myself only, like, is that we are really moving things forward.
Rocking and rolling.
I think that we have done more to move things forward in terms of safety and in terms of our like kids
Mhm.
that we have done in a long time. So
Well,
that's my personal perspective. So
it's just the time.
take that.
Fresh perspective.
Fresh
and
perspective, yeah.
Move things forward in a way that just small shifts make a big impact. So I think.
Sure,
To
sure.
kind of piggyback on that, I think a fresh perspective has allowed for some things
to just look different and to be acknowledged.
Yeah. And I mean, also thinking about like my experience, I have experience, in other schools in the cluster, right? So I can see things being done a certain way that, we might have been hesitant to do here in Maryland because we weren't quite sure what it would look and feel like. And then, having my anecdotal experience, seeing what things look and feel like, I think has been, positive. And so thanks. Other than the leveling conversation, as far as our principals update goes, we wrapped up our fun run recently, which was super successful. We were able to raise almost $80,000 for our school. We are going to install a beautiful interactive playground with only $30,000 of it. So we have so many funds left over that the PTA has already budgeted for things to support our school community. So really excited about that. We're in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. So there's lots of opportunities for students to learn about, Hispanic heritage and hear from storytellers and see some Hispanic dancers. I think that they're Mexican dancers. I want to make sure that I am not mislabeling anybody, but I do believe that they are ethnically Mexican dancers, and just some really great activities that Dr. Waldman has planned for our kiddos. We are currently in the gifted eligibility window. So kiddos are being tested for gifted. It's a very long window with lots of assessments. So looking forward to, having some more kids qualify in GATE. We are moving into kind of we're doing the work, our teachers we're cooking with gas, right? We've got our data from MAP. We are rocking and rolling so that our kids can grow as we move, toward the winter math administration. We've had some great data digs here. I reference this space specifically because this is where we meet. Our teachers are just so amazing and knowledgeable and invested, and they really are the heart of everything that we do here at Maryland. So just want to shout them out because it's not easy. We're having a hard lockdown drill next week. If you're a parent, you will hear about it in tomorrow's weekly email with just some kind of tidbits about how you can talk to your kids about school safety. Because it's hard, it's hard to be a parent in this day and age, and it's hard to be a teacher. So I'm just grateful for all the folks who come in and with a smile every day and do what they do for our kids. Yeah, question.
What can we do to help you?
Yeah, I think at this time, I think that just thinking about school safety in general, like you said, like fresh perspective, some changes. I know that there's been a little bit of potentially consternation around like having to sign in when you come in. If you've been a parent here for 7 years, like, me, why do I have to sign in? And I totally feel that. And I want people to know that, like, I don't think that they're going to do something wrong to children, don't think that we're assuming that you're a bad guy. It's just, we're just trying to equitably make sure that we are applying policy because we have to keep our kids safe. And, we're going through the level 3 background process, just
So
pushing that message.
If we push that message
Yeah.
of like, look, this is just the way it is.
Yeah. That's
Like,
very
does that
helpful.
help you?
Very much so. Just keeping it
First
positive.
of all, I hate that message. Second of all, like, I will do it. I will.
Positive, just keep it positive. It's all about the kids. Like, why do you sign in when you come in? So that we know if there's an emergency, who's in our building, so we can make sure they're all safe, right? And that's why we want grown-ups to sign in. Really been thrilled with parents coming to eat lunch at Astro's Cafe. Our team has made a super sweet spot down there for families to join their kids. So yeah, we're opening up the school, but we're doing it in a safe way. So that's the message. All right.
Can we just I want all of us actually to appreciate that, like, you have stepped in to this situation. And you've done a great job.
Well, thank you.
I really think that it is there's so much that you have been managing stepping in here, and just thank you.
Well, I appreciate it, and I could not do it without the folks that I work with.
No, you definitely
Yeah,
couldn't.
It's a special and unique position coming to Maryland where I loved and worked
Yeah.
here for 7
Yeah.
years, So a lot of the stuff that we're still doing, I had a hand in creating. So it's
Yeah.
been really special. So thank you for saying.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, we're gonna move on to the Kat report. Do you have anything to share from the first meeting?
We had our first meeting, we nominated officers, Tamara, the Midtown Cat Cluster rep is serving as the president, Melissa Clark, who's now in DHE, but also has kids at all three schools, is serving as vice. I also have kids at all three schools, I'm serving as secretary. We started to talk about goals for the year, but didn't get too far into the meeting, other than talking about safety and security. And I would encourage Go Team people to sign up for the thing on Saturday to learn more about the Go Team. Join us on Saturday.
transition.
Learn more about the Go
Look at
Team.
that.
We have another meeting next month and I'll report back.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you for
doing that
serving as
for us.
secretary,
Yeah.
doing double duty, and that's really nice of you.
So good.
Representing. Yeah, so we can move to the announcement section. And as Lindley just said, there's gonna be a summit if you are available. Unfortunately, I'm flying out Saturday to go on a work trip. So I'm not gonna make it, but if you are available, we should have 3 people represented. It is a lot of great content and information at this meeting. Let us know if you can be one of the 3 representatives and you can attend for part or all of session. The next thing on the agenda is public comment, which I don't think we have a member of the public present. But let me just double check that nobody tried to come in.
We had the doorbell set up, so hopefully it would have rung.
Nope, there's nobody here who has tried to come in, so we won't need to use that time for public comment. So we've reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? Okay, may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
We don't need a motion. If the chair proposes that we're adjourned, we don't need a motion, but we can do it, but like, it's fine.
Okay,
If the chair wants to do it,
Let's motion to adjourn.
yeah,
thank you. I have a second.
we had a
Second.
schedule this anyway.
All right.
I
So
second,
powerful.
everybody seconds,
Yeah,
yeah.
we all.
Awesome.
That's great. So thanks. The first business meeting is adjourned. And we will send notice for the next one that I think is near the end of October.
Do we want to put it on the record before you hang out? Do we know what? our
Oh, like say
date
the
is?
date before we actually.
I wrote it down. Yeah,
I think it was November 6th.
yeah.
All right, perfect.
Right.
Thank you, Missy.
Right.
Oh.
Thank you, guys. Sorry, my apologies again. I'm like in storm mode here.
Charlie's Angels, but you know.